Thanks, Pat. The Iraqi Christians were fleeing religious persecution from radical Islam, and instead of being welcomed to America as religious refugees, they were arrested and sent to prison in San Diego. Gary Lane brings us their story.
Last year, 300,000 immigrants from Muslim countries were welcomed into the United States. Most came seeking a better life. But what about Christians escaping ISIS?
Our border's open to everyone except Christians.
Mark Arabo is spokesman for the Minority Humanity Foundation. He recently prayed with fellow Iraqi Christians outside San Diego's Otay detention facility. They gathered in protest and support for some of those detained inside. For nearly 6 months now, the U.S. Immigration Service has imprisoned 20 Chaldean Catholics for attempting to enter the United States from Mexico without prior approval. Rarely does the government comment about pending detainee cases. However, Arabo says the INS did tell the families that it lacked sufficient resources to go through individual case files to provide them with an explanation. Arabo suggests the families deserve better.
And so we're going to protest, we're going to pray for the administration and the officials to open up their hearts and minds to the victims of genocide. We're not going to stop, and we're going to hold them accountable.
Iraqi Christian Amr Moshi served as an interpreter for the United States Army during the Iraq War. Militant Muslims threatened his life because he worked for the Americans. Now he's living in San Diego and prays that his 26-year-old cousin Ziad Mati will soon be able to join him. Ziad was taken into INS custody last January. His case is finally scheduled to be heard later this week. Amr wonders why his cousin is still detained. He's not an Islamic terrorist, explained Amr, but a kind Christian who would not hurt anyone.
Ziad will not be harmful to this country, will not be danger to this country. Let him go live with his family. There's not too much. He's young, he can work, he can pay taxes, he can be happy around his family. And his family could sponsor him.
And just moments before this prayer vigil, word came that the mother of one of the detainees inside had died of cancer. The detainee had requested release for a day or two to go see her mother in the hospital before she died. That request was denied. These Chaldean Christians say that's just another example of a broken immigration system. And Amr says many of them now believe America's early troop withdrawal from Iraq is to blame for the rise of ISIS. The militant Islamic group forces Christians to convert to Islam, leave, or die.
They did not finish the mission. And we can't get papers to stay in America. Where we should go now?
When did the symbol of America become a gated fence as opposed to the Statue of Liberty? Give me your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. These are those Christians.
Gary Lane, CBN News, San Diego.
A heartbreaking story, Pat.
I don't understand it. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe you can tell me. I don't know what is happening. We allow criminals to come across the border, and it's not just tens of 20s, it's thousands and hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens are coming across the border. They're being given preferred treatment. They're being bused into the heartland of America, resettled in various cities. Unbelievable courtesies being given to them, and we've got sanctuary cities like San Francisco where there's a convicted murderer who kills that woman, shoots her down. He's crazed killer allowed to come back into this country after being deported several times and given sanctuary. And here are these Christians who are honestly fleeing religious persecution are being put in jail. What kind of a country do we have?
Members of San Diego's Iraqi Chaldean community are demanding the release of 27 Iraqi Christian refugees being held in the Otay detention center.
The 27 men, women, and children fled Iraq earlier this year after ISIS took over the territory where they used to live. San Diego 6's John Carroll is joining us live in the newsroom with what Immigration and Customs Enforcement is saying about those detentions. John.
Well, Netta, Jim, members of the Iraqi Christian community here say the government knows full well that the people being held in a federal detention facility are not criminals. They say it's shameful that they've now been held in anywhere between 4 and 6 months. Signs held by members of this group of Iraqi Chaldean Christians made their purpose for coming to the detention center parking lot clear.
These are people that have escaped ISIS, escaped slavery, refused to convert, only to be imprisoned from ICE without an explanation.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, is holding 27 Iraqi refugees, men, women, and children at the Otay Detention Center. An ICE spokeswoman told me their cases are all in progress. When I asked if 4 to 6 months detention to resolve cases was typical, she couldn't answer, saying there is, quote, no typical case. She says ICE must do its due diligence before releasing people, including checking on the person's conviction record, immigration history, ties to the community, risk of flight, and whether he or she poses a potential threat to public safety.
I'm here because I want to peacefully protest the predicament that these people are in.
Like others here, Sinan Salem finds it difficult to understand why people who fled a country that the U.S. invaded, that is now struggling with ISIS occupation, would hold those people for months behind bars.
So that we can unite in prayer and also work with the law to exonerate these people, or to somehow, through sponsors that are available, allow them to come into the country, just like my parents were able to come in the country.
Aside from a general statement, the ICE spokeswoman did include a complaint against one of the refugees being held here. It was filed on July 28th against a woman named Rita Marogi. Agents say Marogi lied about whether she'd ever been granted asylum in another country. Marogi subsequently admitted she'd been given asylum in Germany, first living in Kiel, eventually relocating to Munich, where she worked as a dishwasher. That was the only documentation provided us. One person out of 27.
Let's work together to keep America safe and do right by our forefathers by allowing real refugees to enter the country.
Bravo says local Iraqi families are ready to house 20 of the 27 refugees being held. If you'd like to help in the overall effort to save Christians and other religious minorities trying to get out of Iraq and Syria, you can go to endthegenocide.com. I'm posting the link for you at the end of my web story tonight on san diego6.com. Live in the newsroom, John Carroll, San Diego 6 News.